Hey everybody, welcome to the Mother Figures podcast. I'm Caitlin Darkangelo, founder and co-owner of Figure, Midwestern wife, and girl mom. I'm a dual certified pregnancy and postpartum trainer, majored in exercise science from the University of Michigan, earned my master in management degree from Duke University, and have been coaching in the fitness industry for over a decade. This podcast dives into all things pregnancy and postpartum fitness, especially in how to navigate strength and intensity training in these seasons. Whether you're in it yourself, trying to get pregnant, or coaching this population, you're in the right place. I'm excited to share personal experiences, client stories, guest interviews, and evidence-based strategies to give you the guidance, insights, and clarity needed to navigate these seasons with confidence. And with that, let's get rolling. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Mother Figures podcast. Today I have a very fun topic, and that is the term safe versus unsafe exercises for both pregnancy and postpartum, but we'll be focusing a little bit more on the pregnancy side of things. This is something that I see almost daily on social media of a influencer or somebody showing safe pregnancy movements or movements that are safe for diastasis, or pregnancy safe workouts is a way that a lot of creators will frame out or market for their pregnancy programs. And a lot of times we see this and we're like, oh my gosh, we should totally only do what this person is saying, because if I don't do these exercises, everything else is unsafe. Or if it's not marked as a safe pregnancy exercise, then it's probably going to be harming my baby in some way. And I think what we fail to do is we fail to ask, well, what makes it safe, or what technically is unsafe? And so I kind of want to start with that. When it comes to safe versus unsafe, a lot of times it is framed in the perspective of exercises that we are doing in the gym. However, and I'll go through this shortly, there is no specific exercise that is unsafe for pregnancy. There is a list here that I'll go through that are unsafe types of activities that could potentially bring up some health concerns for baby during pregnancy. So those are scuba diving, skydiving, things that can produce or elicit altitude sickness or have some kind of oxygen restriction or blood flow restriction to baby. That might be a category of unsafe activities during pregnancy. The second one is direct impact. So if we're taking blunt force to the abdomen, if we are flaring our bellies onto the ground and just squishing, there is some studies that have shown in the first trimester that direct impact isn't as harmful as we thought, based on moms that self-selected to do impact exercises or engage in higher impact sport, for instance. But outside of that, small amounts of impact, we're not going to be, and this is a innately motherly thing. We are not going to go slamming our bellies into anything or letting somebody punch us in the stomach as hard as possible. This is a obvious one. In terms of other unsafe activities, something that has a high fall risk. Now, this one is subject to the individual's comfort level or expertise. This can sometimes be applied to things like horseback riding or water skiing or mountain biking, things that I probably wouldn't feel comfortable with because I don't do those things ever. But if you are a veteran in any of those fields or sports that include a high risk fall, or high fall risk, but you know your body and you know your comfort level, and it's just a subjective thing. But I wanted to bring that one up, as high fall risk could be a potentially unsafe thing for pregnancy because of that blunt force or falling risk. There's also the category of hot and humid exercise without proper hydration. So this would come to a dehydration risk, which could lead to different dizziness or faint or passing out, things like that. That obviously we don't want on a normal basis either, but during pregnancy, we don't want it either. Sometimes this improperly gets applied to hot yoga. However, there's a lot of subjective stuff towards this as well. If people are well tolerated or well acclimated to hot yoga, that would also pull those people out of this category. Again, it's all self-selected, but this would be a category if your body is not used to it. If you go into a hot and humid room or are exercising outside in hot heat and you start to feel these dehydration specific symptoms, that would be a potential unsafe thing for pregnancy. And then lastly, extended breath holding or anything that would cause oxygen or blood flow restriction to either yourself and or your fetus. Those are activities that may potentially be unsafe. So when you see something on Instagram and it's a safe versus unsafe, that's kind of like the unsafe category. There is no specific like sit-ups, planks, running, jumping, like those are not, they have no inherent unsafe properties for you or your baby. So I wanted to start with that. So from a baby perspective, outside of those things, there is nothing exercise-wise that can harm your baby, whether it be miscarriage risk or preterm birth early on in pregnancy, or harming the baby from a anatomical perspective in any way. So research has found, and so on and so forth. So that brings us to, what about the safety or unsafeness, whatever, I don't know what that word is, for the mother. And that brings us to pelvic floor and core concerns. This is for pregnancy and postpartum, because maybe you're saying, okay, well, what if certain exercises are unsafe for your core or unsafe for your pelvic floor? And that's kind of what I want the rest of this podcast to go into. So I want to flip the script here and say, instead of wording it as safe versus unsafe activities, because again, there is nothing inherently unsafe or nothing that will like harm you or like the life of you or your baby. Now we're talking about pelvic floor and core concerns. It's now more so in the framework of effective versus ineffective ways to do an exercise, not an exercise itself. All exercises are on the table. Some exercises may be less effective or ineffective for your pregnant and or postpartum body than others, and that's what we're talking about. There's no safe versus unsafe. So I try to make this very clear in my coach's course, in my postpartum classes, in my classes in general, just when I'm talking to people, because safe versus unsafe is such a big like used term, but it is really coming down to effective versus ineffective ways to do exercises in the gym during these seasons. So when it comes down to that, although people, influencers, moms, whoever, will talk with a lot of confidence, saying, avoid this move because this move is unsafe or will cause diastasis. So I'm talking about the core in this little section here. Avoiding crunches will make sure that you don't get diastasis. They say this with so much confidence. However, there is no research that shows that a specific exercise causes diastasis postpartum. So I'm going to back it up into diastasis world for a second. Diastasis is a naturally occurring adaptation of our core during pregnancy. So if we hit 37 weeks or beyond, almost 100% of us, 99 to 100% of moms will experience diastasis. And that is just the stretching and thinning of the core wall, especially at the midline, the linea alba, the connective tissue that connects the rectus abdominis muscles, the six-pack muscles on either side of our abs. The tissue between that stretches, and so does our core wall muscles, to accommodate for our baby. So during pregnancy, even saying that you have diastasis during pregnancy, which sounds like a condition that you have or have developed, it shouldn't really be talked like that either, because all of us are going to get diastasis. So when we're talking about diastasis, we're really talking about postpartum diastasis, where that core wall is not coming back together or not strengthening or finding that same tension that we had prior to pregnancy. So back to my thought here. So avoiding a move so that you don't get diastasis. There is no avoiding diastasis during pregnancy. what we have to do is make sure that we are recovering our core postpartum so that the diastasis does not lead to other symptoms, either cosmetically or functionally. So that's kind of what we're talking about. So when we're talking about risk factors of diastasis, if exercise does not cause diastasis or has not been shown to cause diastasis, I want to list off a list of things that actually have been shown to increase your chances of having diastasis postpartum or have it persist longer into postpartum. So those are carrying multiples, so having twins, triplets, extra babies in the belly, repeated pregnancy, so you have a higher risk of more, not extreme, but higher degrees of diastasis after, your first, second, third, fourth. How a woman carries their baby. So some moms naturally carry their babies higher. Some moms naturally carry their babies lower. And just the spot that you carry a baby can affect how your core wall is, stretching throughout your pregnancy. Being pregnant over 35 years old. So the older in age that you are, there's different connective tissues and just skin, considerations as you get older. The tissue that you have in your body can affect how extreme diastasis becomes postpartum. Your genetic makeup of connective tissue. So some people are just naturally more lax. Maybe that be in their joints or their skin. They're just stretchier. That can affect it. Having a large or heavy baby. And then also your torso length. So for more petite or shorter moms, there has been found to be more rates of diastasis postpartum in those moms because, there's not as much up and down room for that baby to grow, so it grows out. So these are all things that we have no control over. And so most of the things that are causing diastasis are unmodifiable risk factors. However, there are two risk factors that are modifiable that have been shown to increase rates of diastasis. And that is number one, core wall weakness, and number two, higher BMI or obesity. And so it's not about exercise selection that is going to affect, or so research has found so far. Exercise selection is not going to be affecting our rates of diastasis. It's core wall weakness. So if our core is weaker, we have a weaker core going into pregnancy and throughout pregnancy, we have a higher rate of diastasis postpartum. And also obesity. The heavier we are, the more out of shape or unhealthy we are, the higher rates of diastasis. And so that's kind of what I wanted to really highlight because exercise gets such a bad rep of potentially causing diastasis where nothing has ever found exercise selection to influence diastasis. However, core wall weakness, which is something that moms might be feared out of because they have been told to not train their core during pregnancy, or that this exercise will cause diastasis. So they just stop exercising altogether. That is actually a higher risk for moms getting weaker cores, which actually has been found to increase diastasis rates. So it's kind of like this whole backwards thing. And this is obviously all new information. It's nobody's fault. This is all new research coming out, but this is part of why I wanted to start this podcast. And what I do in my work every day is just help bring these truths forward so that our moms can benefit and realize what the actual risks are and what the actual benefits are of certain things. And so I actually messaged Christina Previtt, who was one of the researchers in this field right now, a huge researcher in pregnancy and postpartum. And I wanted to get her thought behind this, or her wording. And so her exact response about this is, it's more that our evidence does not see a significant difference between amount of abdominal exercise and diastasis recti postpartum. So it's the absence of a positive finding that's where we're at right now. So pretty much what she's saying is we're not seeing that moms that are doing more core work during pregnancy, like core or flexion, planks, even toes to bar, or higher impact things. We have not seen a significant difference between moms who are doing those exercises and moms who are not doing those exercises and their rates of diastasis postpartum. So we can't say that moms that are doing sit-ups or that sit-ups in a general scope are causing diastasis, because those two groups are having the same amounts of diastasis postpartum. So therefore, there is no evidence saying that like these specific exercises could be causing diastasis. So that's kind of like the what about exercises that could be safe or ineffective or effective. So it's really about how we do these exercises that would make something effective or ineffective. I want to define ineffective really quick because obviously when it comes to normal training, there's effective ways to do squats. There's ineffective ways to do squats. There's effective ways to do a sled pull, in a high rocks event, and there's ineffective ways. So that's the frame I want to like focus on. When it comes to postpartum and pregnancy, ineffective training would be things that like are, well, I guess this is more so postpartum specific, but things that are not really helping to heal the core wall or pelvic floor function. It might, if we're doing something ineffective, it might take us a little bit more time to get back to activities we love because things aren't healing as quickly or connecting as well. Ineffective could mean causing symptoms like incontinence, heaviness, pain, or weakness. So the way that we are performing a movement could cause ineffectiveness, which would be causing symptoms. So that's the lens that we're looking around now. It's not unsafe for us to do some of these exercises. It's how we do them that's making them ineffective that might be causing symptoms. So that's kind of the scope here. So things that we can, adjust or change up. One would be work or breath work effectiveness. So like breathing exercises or doing breath work right, or where we're sending the breath when we are breathing. So breath work distribution throughout the core. So something that would be ineffective would be like pushing out or bearing down when we're trying to actually engage our deep core or our transverse abdominis. That would be an ineffective way to do breath work instead of doing that like core wrap or 360-degree breath. That would be an effective way to do that. There's also breath timing that can be effective or ineffective. So that would be the coordination of the breath with the movement. So if we breathe or exhale or engage too late or too early, it could be an ineffective way in terms of kind of eliciting symptoms instead of engaging at the right time, which would help us prevent some symptoms. So that's like a way that we can modify our breath or think about our breath timing to help make that more effective for our movements in terms of reducing symptoms. We also can think about posture alignment or posture or alignment. These are things like rib flare or tilting the hips. So things that are going to throw our anatomy off that might cause extra pinching or extra strain on the core wall or not stacking our core so we experience less strength or more pain or just tougher to do the movement. This would also involve less pelvic floor coordination because our rib cage or our diaphragm and our pelvic floor are no longer stacked when our rib cage and our hips are not stacked. And all of these things could potentially lead to symptoms as well, or just like not help heal the core. So for instance, in an overhead press, when we're pressing forward and our ribs are flared forward, our core wall is just like super stretched out. Versus we could do in a more effective positioning with our rib cage over our hips. So our core is more stacked, it's more aligned, it can engage better, and therefore we can build strength because of the alignment piece. So if we are unaligned or our posture is off, that would be an ineffective way to do a movement, but we can make it effective. That will help with our healing time and reduce symptoms. So that's what we mean by ineffective, AKA the unsafe version or the wording of, influencers is what they want to call it, but it's really not unsafe. There's nothing unsafe about it. It's just maybe not as effective as doing proper alignment, proper breath, proper timing, all of that stuff. So that's kind of, it's just a different way to think about something that is commonly seen on Instagram. And when we're talking about inefficiencies in the gym, like especially during motherhood, like we don't have time to do things ineffectively because we want to be able to do what we want to do without symptoms. We want to be able to play with our kids without pain. And we don't want to go through a whole workout and like not do things right and not be healing as fast or as quickly or as efficiently as we could be. So it's just like a total waste of our time if we're not doing the how properly, if we're not doing things effectively. And that's why I created my core lab, which is a 8-video module series that is included in my Mother Figures app subscription. So that's where I include my pregnancy program, postpartum program, and all 3 of Figures general fitness programs. I also include my core lab in there. So it is literally me just standing in front of a camera showing you guys the how when it comes to breath timing, breath coordination, breath, efficiencies, posture and alignment for 8 different movement modalities. So you can apply the how or making movements effective to all of your workouts, whether that be figure workouts or your workouts at your gym or wherever it may be, because the how of pregnancy and postpartum exercises is the most important piece. It's not safe versus unsafe. It's how do we make all these exercises more effective so that we can keep more connection in our core during pregnancy and return the strength to that and the coordination and the connection to that core postpartum after we deliver our baby. So that's why I created the core lab. And that's kind of what this whole podcast is about, is like really the making movements effective for pregnancy, not like safe versus unsafe. So in summary, aside from like the types of activities with related risks that I talked about in the beginning, like, altitude or impact and all that kind of stuff, it's not a matter of being safe or unsafe for pregnancy and postpartum. It's a matter of effective versus ineffective training, or the how behind exercises that would make them more or less beneficial for the pregnant and postpartum body. So in a nutshell, watch what you consume, really think about what like the hook of the Instagram post or TikTok is saying, like really dissect it. Like, is this right? Is safe really what we're trying to go for? Or are we really trying to just use that as a marketing tool to make other things feel unsafe and to like buy into that program? So that's kind of where this whole topic sourced from in my brain. So take it into account, make your own decisions, and just be smart, educated moms like you are. And with that, we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mother Figures podcast. If these episodes help or resonate with you in any way, it would be so helpful to the show if you could leave a review so we can get this into more moms' hands. And if you're looking for even more guidance and direction when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum fitness, I got you covered. My Mother Figures app subscription includes my Figure Pregnancy and Figure Postpartum workout programs, in addition to our general fitness programs. You'll get the day-by-day workouts you need to help you feel strong, pain-free, and labor-ready during pregnancy, and also the recovery, strength, and progressions you'll need to get back to the activities you love, full of strength and without symptoms after baby arrives. If you're local to the Brighton, Michigan area, I also host daily women's functional fitness classes, a 6-week postpartum return to fitness course, and pregnancy and postpartum consultation sessions. For those who are providers, coaches, or practitioners in the space, I hold a live Mother Figures certification course that equips you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to train and work with this population. For information on all of these services and programs, make sure to check out fitisgettingreal.com/moms or head to the show notes for the direct link. I'm so thankful that you tuned in to today's episode, and I will catch you next time.